Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast, and we have a magnificent podcast for you today. And I'm here with my snowflake business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague. How are you today, buddy?
Politically incorrect. What is wrong with you?
You're starting with that.
The snowflake's going to come down and beat your ass.
Am I allowed to drink beer during the podcast?
Do whatever you
sure
want.
Are. And we have a wonderful guest today with us. Mr. Bruce with a beer in his hand.
What's shaking, bacon?
Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Well, we have a wonderful podcast today that Bruce is going to align us all on the right path, which we're very looking forward to. But this podcast has been sponsored by Morning Tech Meeting. And Morning Tech Meeting is an amazing service that people don't even realize that they need to be training their technicians on soft skills. It's a subtle, consistent lesson that connects with the technicians so that they can have the capacity to make a big difference with clients of service businesses. And we experienced that ourselves. And we've got the Tech Whisperer on the line here. And he had a great way of connecting with the technicians in our business. And we translated that into video lessons that many companies out there, service business companies, have amazing technicians that can relate to their clients and create repeat business, referral business, and get more reviews out of the business. So go to morningtechmeeting.com, put your name and email in the fields there. Check out our sample lessons that the Tech Whisperer does, and your business will thrive. You wouldn't even believe the benefits that will happen there. And onto the show. So what's happening today, Mr. Tech Whisperer?
You called me a snowflake. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yep. And exactly.
You've called me, hold on. You've called me much worse for
exactly.
like 36 years straight, but no big deal.
Snowflake.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do some new stuff this year on the podcast. And Bruce is one of our oldest, dearest friends in the industry. And we're going to start having people like Bruce on and just have conversations about topics that we think are interesting. And Bruce was the first guy I reached out to because Bruce always
Larry had his pinky out when he drank his beer just now.
Is that masculine?
I've always done that. It's kind of feminine. I kind of get a kick out of that.
Okay, you guys are ahead of me.
Sorry. I saw it. I had to comment.
Okay. All right. So, dude, we are going to go down the rabbit hole like 50 times tonight. I can feel it right now, which is kind of the fun part, right? So today we're going to talk about masculinity and how it relates to the home service businesses and the trades and just the workforce in general. And, you know, it's weird. It's something that doesn't really ever get talked about, but you see it at work. And like, I see it at clients that we do coaching with. I see the dynamics of that kind of masculinity and what to do with it nowadays play out every day. So I thought we'd talk about it. Everybody in the world's probably going to be pissed at us at some point during this show, so it's all good.
I got offended about my pinky already.
There was a guy that I was just doing a coaching call, and he's out of San Diego, and I said, "Hey, I really got to go," because I went long. I said, "I really got to go because I'm getting ready to do a podcast." He says, "Oh, what are you doing a podcast about?" I said, "Masculinity in the service business." And he kind of cocked his head to the side and he said, "That's going to be interesting." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're not sure where it's going to go." And then before we got done with our Zoom call, guess what he said? He said, "Enjoy your masculinity." I said, "That sounds so wrong."
I got like 50 things I could say that I'm not going to.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, let's start this out with, you know, I think the hardest thing is that people don't even really know what the definition of masculinity is. Bruce, you and I were having a little chat before we started, like, well, what's the definition of masculinity? So I went on Webster's and let me pull it up here in a second. And it was just so vague. So, sorry, everybody.
Well, in many ways,
masculine, having qualities or appearance traditionally associated with men. What the hell's that mean? that's just nothing.
The manly man.
Yeah. So it's more, Bruce, don't you think it's more of a social construct than an actual, I mean, what we consider masculinity is a social.
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
What I was saying when we were talking is I think that the word, it depends on the context of the conversation. And unfortunately, these days when we're so, everything is like online and everybody's typing stuff in boxes. When you say masculine, if you say it to a young man, he's thinking maybe father figure, he's thinking, rough and ready, he's thinking this and that. But if it's somebody who's my age, I'm thinking about someone who handles their stuff, who's has integrity, who, I don't know, just takes care of themselves and takes care of the people around them. Mm. So I think there's a lot of social stuff there, but then there's also the in between. I have a young man, my nephew, and he and I talked about how at his age, he's 26, and at his age, there's this confusion about like, are you supposed to act like this? Or are you supposed to act like that?
Well, no, and I think that's the whole point of this show, Bruce, is that,
yeah,
I mean, when we're all roughly the same age, okay, we're in our 50s, and I think what was considered masculine as when we were growing up was a very kind of distinct set of social norms. And I don't think it's quite that simple anymore. And I'm not saying that what we learned was right or wrong. I'm just saying it was very kind of binary, masculine, feminine. And now, in culture, it's much more many shades of gray. And I think that's what causes a lot of people to not know how to behave, to be honest, especially guys our age.
Who are the kids
or the owners of these companies who are employees are these kids. So we grew up one way where it's this binary thing, like you're either very manly or you're feminine, which is an oversimplification. It always has been. And now it's been brought up that no, there's all different ways to be masculine, but I think we're all trying to figure out what that looks like. What that means.
Well, now, wait a minute. First of all, Larry, you interjected a comment. What was that again? You said something about
race. It depends on, how our parents were and the expectations there. And that's pretty much where it starts. And of course, it changes the social contracts. Every decade is a little bit different. We saw things when we grew up in kids in the 70s and what was happening in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and things change an awful lot. But, you look at your dad, your uncle, your teachers, if you had male teachers, and you make, expectations from them and how to be, what's masculine, what isn't masculine. Yeah. And then you just run with that.
Well, and I think it also depends on what your interests were when you were young in your formative years. Like for me, I grew up in a locker room my whole life. I played every sport under the sun. So I have a very locker room mentality of what masculine is. And but that's
it's on the way extreme.
Images. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Forget the images. But then I have had to relearn to basically tone everything down, because everything in a locker room is, at least then, is almost a cartoon version of masculinity. Reality.
Yeah, but let me ask you this question, because I think we might be confusing some terms. So
okay,
here's my question to you. If I say to you, and I'm going to say this phrase 3 times, 3 different ways. 1, act like a man.
Okay,
wait a minute. 2, act manly. Mm-hmm. 3, be masculine. I mean, that's really 3 different things.
I know, but I would have the same answer for all 3. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying what was ingrained to me. I bet the answer would be very similar for all 3.
What would be your answer?
Well, see, mine would be so act like a man means be responsible, be strong, act like a man. Act manly. To be manly just means to have the physical attributes of a man. That's what I think, walk a certain way, talk a certain way. But when you say to be masculine, that to me, that carries a whole lot of social weight with it. It's how you dress, it's how you walk, it's how you talk, it's all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think when someone says be a man, that just means put on your big boy pants and handle your business. But be masculine.
When you say it's a situational thing.
I think so. I think it's contextual. Yeah.
Yeah. So if right at that moment, be a man, stand up and get past what you're dealing with right now.
Well, right. When I think of,
but you would never say
it's like do.
But you would never say be masculine.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So I think they're different things.
No, that's interesting.
And I think,
different constructs.
Yeah. Well, because I think, do you think if you dig deeper, like be masculine, a lot of us don't have a lot of control over that. Do you think that's more biological? Like just the size, your size, how you look, how deep your voice is, how you carry yourself.
It's how you carry yourself.
Those all go together, Larry.
No, because you could be some little dude that's not, it's wiry, and you got another guy that's big and strong. And if he carries himself and he's nervous and he's afraid, the wiry little guy carries himself with his shoulders back and his hands up straight and he's self-confident. There's a big difference between what you're going to expect out of those guys. And that's how you're raised. Somebody, you could be an athlete and you could be the star athlete, but you don't want any attention. You don't want anything like that. And then there's a little guy in the team who doesn't do a whole lot, but he was raised to walk with his shoulders back and stand up. And he actually believes in himself as opposed to the star athlete. You're going to be looking at the other guy thinking he's the star athlete, and the other star athlete that has the capacity and he doesn't carry himself well. Do you agree?
I think there's something there. Yeah. Because see, this is where I said me and Eric are going to be disagreeing.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think it's that whole nature versus nurture thing. Is what we're observing, their physical attributes and their genetics, or the way they carry themselves. And one's superficial and the other one goes a little deeper. But I don't know. When you say how do you carry yourself, you talked about posture. You have your shoulders back and you carry yourself and you walk into a situation a certain way. Whereas other people,
that's not even just confidence, Larry. That sounds like cockiness.
That's like you walk like you're comfortable in your own skin.
There's a lot of people who have a lot of confidence walk in a much less peacock position because they're so confident they're not worried about it. They don't have to strut around and have the invisible luggage like they got the 2 suitcases and their lats.
I think what we need to do, I think we need to first of all, let's crystallize what it is that we're trying to define here. We're talking about masculinity. Now, are we talking about masculinity, the thing that when someone walks into a room, you watch how they walk, you listen to the cadence of their voice, you listen to the tone of their voice. You listen to all of these things and you watch that and you say, well, is that masculine? Or are you saying, are we talking about someone who is a man, who is responsible, who is socially, socially, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsible, all of that. Yeah. What are we talking about here?
All right, let's back up. Let's start over.
No, we can't.
No, we got to go in a good direction.
Friggin'
go ahead,
out of the
where
bottle.
do you want to go? Yeah.
Well, no, where I want to go is, and Larry, let me just break this down. I told Bruce this a little bit before. Like when we started Shamrock, early, 2008 or whatever, we got a certain bunch of guys that work for us who you would say have manly traits, right? We told them to do something, they did it. They didn't have a lot of, the feelings weren't as high, and and then over the years, over that decade that we owned the place, the guys who came to work for us were more sensitive and needed and wanted more attention and didn't want to do some of the hard things and didn't want to stick those things out. That's what I'm talking about, because that's what guys are complaining about that own these businesses. I know you two are going to barbecue me.
I'm sorry.
No. Okay, we had more guys. And this is the stereotype. We would call them millennials. Okay, from that age category, they're more sensitive. They're more, expect to be catered to. They need to be heard. They have different expectations, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not trying to say,
no, but that's the point. I guess that was the point for me to having this conversation is how do the owners are generally older than millennials. Not all, I know that. But, the people who are running, especially a lot of the more longstanding, bigger businesses are more in their like late 40s, 50s, 60s. So to be able to keep good talent and keep growing that business or keep that business good, they're going to have to pivot in some way to learn how to deal with this. And I've had to do that. Look, I said it up. I grew up in a locker room. It was as rough and rude and crude as it could be. And I thought everybody behaved that way. And, it took work to realize that's not true.
You also went home and your dad was swearing at you half the time. Yeah. So you kind of thought this was all normal.
I grew up in friggin' Maine too. That doesn't help either.
No.
I was a general manager at a facility. And that facility catered to blue collar. Okay. So in other words, the people that were coming and going, they were, salt of the earth, hands were down there doing the work. Right. And then this young man came to work there, and and I knew him. In fact, I was the reason he came to work at that place. And he spoke very fast and had a little bit more energy in his voice, a little bit more color. And he would, he'd sometimes wear a scarf around his neck, and, he dressed a certain way and blah, 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 right? That was it. Now, this guy's married, has kids. He's a great guy, hard worker, nice guy, but he had a little bit more of that like.
So let me ask you this. Then did the clientele perceive him as feminine?
I'm maybe so, but here's what I said. One day I pulled him to the side and I said, first of all, you need to lose the scarves and you need to talk low and slow.
So you're trying to change the guy.
I literally told him this, and now I look back on that moment, and that was probably, 12, 15 years ago. I look back on that moment and I'm like, man, oh man, I sound like a moron.
Dude, you're an asshole completely.
Slow.
So
I know.
Is that a product of your age and your upbringing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. No. Let me defend you a little bit. Hang on. Were the people around you reacting negatively to his color? Not that there's anything wrong with that. It sounded like I'm in a Seinfeld episode, but no. So it was just you. It was your perception. It wasn't like everybody around.
Yeah. Pretty much. Maybe there were some folks who came in. Yeah, maybe there were some folks who came in and kind of went, "Whoa, I don't know," But to be honest with you, he was well loved at that company and served clients really, really well, and people liked him. So now he's moved on to another company. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that was me thinking of masculinity instead of being a man. I think that's kind of
totally. If he had a family and he provided and he carried himself well and he was good in his own head and if people loved him, he's as man as anybody else. If he's
looked after his dad when his dad was going through cancer treatment. Was a pillar in his church. All of these things. He was doing everything right, and here I was focusing on this particular, aspect of his character, personality.
Well, and I think that's the thing, man. It's like, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't think I'm explaining myself well at all, but like, how much is too much? How much is just enough? And how much is indifferent? You know what I mean? I know for me, when I was younger in my managerial career, I was running people as I had been run as a youth. Meaning I just yelled at them, was a huge asshole, expected everything under the sun, and then held it over them that I could do it better. or whatever. Right. So I thought that was leadership. Like, I'll toughen them up and I'll put them in their place so that they know that they're below me. and that's somehow going to, miraculously make them want to do a good job. Right. So obviously I learned that doesn't work. So then the question is, so then you start going, because I've had this too, right? So then I started going the other way. Like, I realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting any results that I want, right? I need to become a nicer person. I need to treat these guys with, more respect, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, so then you start going down that path, and then they go, Eric's soft. Eric's gone soft. We're just going to do anything we want. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, no, we're not, right? And then it comes back to, like, then I have to try to find what the middle is. It's like the Goldilocks thing. This one's just right. So, I've been on that. I think that's what I want to talk about. Like, what's the right amount? Like, what's the magic recipe for this, for all the owners who maybe are behaving like I was early on, and they don't have good company cultures, and they don't have people that want to work there? Because, like Larry said, we had millennials, we had to adapt, and our millennial people were amazing, but they weren't amazing until we learned how to deal with them more on their terms. But here's the thing, but if we had gone totally to their terms, nothing would have gotten done.
No, I don't think so. I think that's just what we thought. Yeah, Larry, I just think we thought that was the case.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No. They were all workers. They just wanted to be catered to and treated differently than the other guys that we had. And it made sense. They just everybody was different. This group of people that we had for a while were more similar, than us, or more similar in their own style of the expectations from us. But everybody we had expected to work. We didn't have a silent room at the end of the hall. Like, I'm sure you're going to tell everybody that you ran into, Eric. What would you call it? The safe room?
Safe room.
The safe room.
Let me tell a story.
Good.
I'm out in Los Angeles
and we didn't have one, by the way.
We didn't have a safe room. Well, the bathroom, maybe.
None of the rooms where you guys are safe.
Yeah. So I went out to do a carpet cleaning bid at a really high-end liberal arts college in Los Angeles. This is 4 or 5 years ago. And going and measuring rooms, and there's this one room in the hall that has one chair in it and nothing. So I'm measuring it, and the guy, I said, "Oh, what's this room called?" And the facility manager said, "Well, it's the safe room." And I'm like, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah, it's the safe room where all the snowflakes go."
Isn't that what they call it?
And I'm like, "Yeah, well, he wasn't into it either, right? Because he was my age." And I'm like, I'm not following, because I didn't even know those terms at the time. I didn't know there were safe rooms. I didn't know what a snowflake was. This was all over my head. And then he goes, "Yeah, so when a professor starts to talk about something that's going to make somebody uncomfortable, or their belief system could be challenged, or they're going to be hurt emotionally in any way, they can leave and go to the safe room so that their feelings aren't negatively affected." And I think that's kind of I know it sounds like an extreme example, but those same people that work there come into the workforce a few years later where there is no safe room. I think that's my point. I've been missing the point. That's my point of today. There's no safe room once you get out there.
I think after listening to that and Larry's comments and kind of how y'all are talking about your experience with people and our age groups, I think what we're really seeing here is social evolution. It's just a natural progression of society. Now, it'll swing a little bit this way and a little bit that way, but at the end of the day, this is my belief, we're getting further from needing there to be a big difference between the behavior of men and the behavior of women, because those attributes that were so important in prehistoric times, strong, aggressive, ready to fight, that's not as important as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so now we're starting to understand that how people feel is important. understanding people's, emotional makeup and their psychology and where they are in society and the things that have been thrown in front of them that actually do harm them or hold them back, and respecting that, and where they're coming from. So I think what we're seeing is more of that. Like to us, it feels weird. But if you grew up in it, it doesn't feel weird. I mean, you think about.
Let me counterpoint that, Bruce, just for a second. You're talking about prehistoric man going out and fighting and, like making their way in the world and blazing a trail. But in a lot of trades, it's kind of still that way. I mean, you're digging ditches, you're in sewage under a house, you're getting called out in water damage, at 6 p.m. You worked all day and then you get called out at 6, you get called out at 10, you get called out at 2 a.m. I mean, these are all things that.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with masculinity. There are women who do those things. There's nothing innately masculine about any of the things you just said.
Then why don't more women do those jobs?
It's a social construct. Yeah. I'm starting to see more and more showing up for it. But to be honest with you, it's because they're smart.
They don't have to do it, so give them credit.
You know full well that to be a good water damage technician, A, you need to be very smart, and B, you need to, be able to navigate a lot of hard things. And I'm not saying that women can't do those jobs and should. I think they should. I would have welcomed more females to come into our workplace to do that type of work. Because the reality is, I mean, look at what we just went through with the pandemic. Who didn't lose any jobs? Plumbers, service, electricians, HVAC, all those guys, right? Water damage technicians, like they're not losing their jobs. Their jobs are more valuable now than they've ever been. So how do you get, and yet we have this huge trades gap of people wanting to do them. Okay. So how do you get people who are smart and maybe not a bull in a china shop or masculine or whatever you want to call it? How do we get them to be on board with us? And then how do we make sure we manage them so they want to be there? That's the point of this show, because, and the thing is too, and this could just be, I mean, Larry was no different than me, the management style in a water damage restoration business, Bruce, you know this full well, is sometimes you just gotta like give somebody a stern talking to, because we're all down, we're all exhausted, we're all like ready to cry, and it's just like, I'm going to use the term, it's like, all right, everybody, we got to man up and just get this done.
Right.
Masculine.
And that's the masculine thing again, right? That's our vocabulary for that. Man up. Get your shit together. And
but I think you're proving, so many points with what you're saying, because you're saying it's, we say man up. We say this, we say that, and it means this and it means that. But all of that is just stuff that we made up.
So do you think the vocabulary needs to change?
I think it just will.
Okay.
It will change, and so I think the younger generation that's coming up, I mean, I want you to just go back to the 60s. You think about what someone who grew up in the 40s would think of the free love generation of the 60s. They hear the music, they see the hair, they do this. Then I came up in the 80s and, and I see what happened in the 90s. And then the people, we're always shocked by, and now we're 20 years, 30 years separated now, we're talking here. So it's definitely a generational thing. I'm just saying that the need for the level of physical, I don't even want to say aggression. That's not the word I'm looking, but aggressiveness. You see the difference? Like being willing to throw yourself into something and even get hurt. Like for instance, my nephew and I'll just give you one quick example. We're out here splitting logs, right? So what do I do while we're working together? I grab with my bare hand, I grab a log by the end and just pick it up and, just set it over there, knowing it's heavy. It's barely, I can barely hold the stinking thing.
You're showing your manlyhood to your nephew.
Look at what a man can do, like that. And I'm proud of the fact
Did you
that
hurt
55
yourself?
years of age, I didn't actually.
good.
I'm still pretty okay.
All right, good.
But the point I'm getting is, even in my head, I understand that the smart way to lift a log is to grab it with two hands and put it over there and not try to barehand it, So it's this whole thing that we have in our brains that masculinity is being strong, aggressive, dominant, and showing that.
But don't you think that those are also good traits?
Of course they are, because that's how most of us carry ourselves.
When they're in
most
control.
People don't carry themselves that way, Larry. The rare person carries themselves that way.
No, I think men want to carry themselves as a strong person. They're a strong person.
Depends
Strong
could
be perceived as many ways.
Yeah.
Mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong.
Yeah.
I mean, you just want to be strong. You're the man. You want to be able to, you carry yourself like you can handle anything. I mean, the things that we have to deal with in our life are just generally to overcome obstacles, but we also need to be strong out of our comfort zone, strong with resistance from other people, strong with defending ourselves, strong with everything. And we do our best to be that way. And that's just the expectation. And many women are that way now.
Because, I disagree with you, man. I think you carry yourself that way.
Okay.
I don't think most people carry themselves.
I think most people want to, and most people have their different levels of carrying themselves at different strengths.
Well, let me tell you something. This is interesting because we went to the North Georgia mountains this week. I was buying a little 4x4 thing to use, utility vehicle, and the guy that I met was a young man. He looked to be about 27, 28. Had a house, had 2 kids, and he raises cattle. And from every definition of masculinity, this guy looked the part. The job that he had, what he does for a living, he looked the part, he acted the part and everything. But, and don't take this the wrong way, there was a certain significant level of sensitivity that came across that you wouldn't have seen from his father. He talked about his daughters in very endearing terms. He was very polite to me and Joanna. He wasn't deferential. He didn't carry himself like that. He was really, he was very kind. So I don't think his dad would have been that way.
But is that like a disc profile thing, or is that?
I think it was, I don't know. It could be, but
yes,
I think it has something to do with his age.
Actually, talk about my dad. My dad's been hardcore, the man. He was raised to be the man. He was raised in the 50s and, 60s. And then we did a disc profile and he was an S and he's sensitive. So I was like, huh. And then I thought of a bunch of things. Yeah, he's sensitive about many things, but he was raised to be the D. All the boys are raised to be a D. Take control, be the man. Do whatever you have to do, make it happen. And you are the man no matter what. Don't let anybody tell you how it is. Yep. And that's how he was, and us as well. I'm just saying because my dad, because I perceive my dad as this high D. We put our dads on this big level. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's an S. And I started laughing and I started teasing him and he didn't like it at all. So his father hat came on.
Yes, that's just for snowflake.
No, it was very cool.
No, it's not, by the way.
He was raised to be this way. So he wore the D hat without a problem.
Yeah.
And he became comfortable in it. I don't know if he was raised now, he would have more latitude to be potentially more himself. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, our fathers,
I think
fathers are raised to be that way.
Yeah, we were. We came up at a time when that was really important. And a lot of, so I'm 55, and let's suppose that I would have had kids. I would have had kids in I got married in 86. So by the time, 87,
your
88,
kids would be
right?
like 30.
Yeah. So so if I had sons, they would probably be a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but they would be more dominant, because that's how I was raised, and that's probably what I would pass on, is like, look, son, if you want something, you got to get it. You got to be strong. You got to get up in the morning. You got to make things happen. It's the way we were raised. I would imagine, though, that being raised with the current zeitgeist of being emotionally available and kind, and, you know, sharing your feelings and everything, I don't think that my son's sons would get the same message.
No, because it's been the expectations in the generations. It's the masculinity prototype, or the stereotype, has been minimized, which in many ways is good, because people are able to express themselves. Go ahead, Eric. You got something to say?
I got two eyes. I'm just trying to.
His head's getting ready to explode. His head's getting ready to explode.
I keep going back to this, but you know, this is, I think, the key point. And look, we're having a great conversation. It's awesome, but how do we relate all this to work? How do we relate this to running, you know, an HVAC company, or running a carpet cleaning company, or, you know, that's really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, it's nice that we talk about all these things, and I love doing it. But, you know, if I'm listening, if I put my microphone away and I'm the listener, I'm like, okay, I'm 55 years old. I grew up with a dad who was hard on me, whatever. I'm kind of that way, but all my employees are 25.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an asshole, but how do I undo 55 years of knowing one thing? And then I need to tone it down, change the message, whatever, so that I can get the most out of all of my team, have them feel comfortable, but not let them rule the roost. Because you can't do that either. Somebody has to be the leader. And, you know, I used to always say to our team, it's not a democracy. It's a benevolent dictatorship. And I'm the dictator. So, you know, it's benevolent, but I'm still in charge. It doesn't mean I won't listen to you, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make the decision, you know, and we found our equilibrium with that, but it took a very long time. It took a very, very long time.
So, Larry, how did it look with him finding that equilibrium, if I can throw you under the bus with a question?
No, because most technicians want to be led. And that was a leadership approach. You know, this is, you know, come to me with your problems and we'll figure it out. And Eric wore the D hat real well, where he was good at leading. And if you're not good at leading, you just need to work on those skills and be reflective and work, you know.
But wait a minute, Larry. Yes, I'm a D, but I didn't run around and just run over everybody. And
no, I didn't say that you did. No, of course. I actually went the leadership skills. Way. Yes.
You know, what I found in the end, Bruce, worked was I made time for everybody. Even though, I mean, that costs you money, right? If you're going to spend a lot of time with your people, that is not billable hours. It's costing you money. At least first cost sensitive, it's costing you money. So what I learned was I had to build some social capital with everybody. I had to learn about them. I had to learn about what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what their aspirations in life were. And then once I did that and we built some trust, I mean, we might have still seen the world completely through different eyes, but they knew that I had their back and they had mine. Right. And that takes a long time. Now, Larry, just by virtue of what he did at our company, never really got there because he was out marketing all the time. He didn't have time to sit and find out that certain guy likes comic books or, you know, like whatever, like, you know, one of us had to do that. And that was me.
You know, here's the thing. This goes back to something that I'm just starting to learn about. And I think it does come with age. And I think society ages kind of like people do. And I think the world, emotionally speaking and socially speaking, is actually becoming wiser because we're starting to be kinder and try to figure things out. But what's the guy, the philosopher, was it Kant, I think? He said, treat people as an end rather than the means. And I think too many business owners, when they hire someone, they think you're here to do a job, and that job is why you're here. And if you can't do that job and can't do it well, then you need to go.
Yeah, it's like you're a chess piece and not a person.
Yeah. So if you, like what you're saying that you did, is get to know the person, try to figure out a way that you can make their hopes, dreams, goals align with those of the company. If you listen to that, if I say to you, this goes back to our conversation. If I say to you, the business owner came in and said, listen, this is the way it's going to be. You do your job or you're out of here. And then at a different business, someone came in and said, listen, I want to know what your dreams and your hopes are so we can figure out how to align those with the business. My question to you is, which one would you think was a man and which one would you think was a woman?
Right. The man is the dick who says this is how it is. And then the woman is the one that says, let's collaborate and figure this out. And,
right.
And that's now, the thing.
So now let me ask you the second question. Which approach would be more helpful? Which approach would be more successful? Which approach would be more
the collaborative?
Yeah.
Every time.
Okay. So is the problem then, when we're sitting here talking about masculinity, maybe the problem is, and I think you alluded to this earlier because you said, how can I untangle 55 years of this? Maybe the problem is on both ends. On the quote unquote snowflake end, maybe there's some people who lean too far on the snowflake side, but then there's too many of us who lean too far on the tough guy macho side.
No, I think that's a great point. It's just then figuring out a way, and I think you're 100% right, Bruce. It's then figuring out a way like, well, how do we do this? Like, how do we come to terms?
Yeah, you just have to address these things as an owner so you get the experience of figuring it out, having the confidence to go in there and making decisions and trying it one way, like you're saying, the masculine way or the feminine way. And then you're going to learn which way is most effective to get the most out of your people and make them want to come back every single day and work hard for the company to do a good job.
Well, I think, and Bruce, I mean, you're an expert on this more so than Larry and I, because you've gone through all Dr. Rome's DISC stuff, but DISC would be a way. I mean, even though it's not gender specific, but it's self-awareness for all, right? Yeah. So if you're doing a fair amount of DISC type personality training where, let's say you have a snowflake, but that snowflake's becoming more self-aware, right? And then you have the owner who is the bully, and that owner's becoming more self-aware.
Right.
Then those are the things that are going to bring you to the middle quicker. And that was me.
Self-awareness, yeah.
I mean, half the time I didn't even know I was bullying anybody. I just wanted shit to get done, you know? and once I learned DISC, I could sit there with the employee who had only been there for a month and be like, hey, dude, just so you know, if I just start rushing you and running over you, just put your hand up and remind me. And, I mean, that wasn't easy for me to do. Because I'm saying I'm giving you control.
Wasn't easy for them also.
No, but they learned how to do it.
Well, but listen, Eric, there's also the other issue, and it's this, that so let's suppose that there's this big difference between you and you have an employee that you just hired who is way on the snowflake spectrum side. Okay. And when I say snowflake, I'm not really being disrespectful. It's just
I'm enjoying using the term so much.
It's just fun to do. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're going to lose half our.
We're talking about someone who is so self-aware, self-absorbed that they really want to be treated a certain way before they can function. This is what I told one of the guys I'm coaching, because he was talking about some of the issues, and I said, listen, they come to you, they are unfinished. They're just this raw clay that comes to you, and then there's all different kinds of clay. The question is, what kind of a leader are you? And here's what a leader has to do. In fact, if you've ever watched someone who's really good at training horses, wild horses, and taming them and everything, and you guys saw my presentation on, the client whisperer. But anyway, long story short, you got to go to the horse first. You got to walk the way it walks, talk the way, and then you have to bring it. Now, I'm not saying that you change who you are, but you do have to change your communication style, and you have to get to where they are first, and then you can bring them along to where we all want to go. Otherwise, they're not going to hear you. They're just going to feel, like you said, bullied. They're going to feel set upon. They're going to feel treated unfair.
Well, and
I
then
had
for
one
them,
employee.
it's just a paycheck to them at that point. They don't care about you at all. They just want to get their pay and get out.
Go ahead, Bruce.
I had an employee. Let me give you one story real quick, and then please. But I had one employee who, this was, I've forgotten that this had happened until just now. We were slow. Business was slow. I'm running a carpet cleaning company, and business was slow, and I was scared to death. But I always guaranteed my people that I would pay them at least 30 hours, even if we had nothing to do. So one day I asked everybody to come to the shop. We had torrential rains, and there was this mud went across our parking lot, and we had to clean it up. So I asked everybody to help. Everybody pitched in and everything. And I had one guy, and he literally broke down and started to cry. And he said, I didn't sign up to do this. I didn't sign up to dig mud. I didn't, I'm a salesman. And I looked him in the eye and I said, we'll make up a name. I said, Caleb, are you on this team or not? Because you need to go home and think about whether you want to work here or not.
Yeah.
I said, so you go home without pay. And when you come back tomorrow, you let me know if you want to be part of this team.
What happened?
And he left.
Never saw him again, huh?
And he came back the next day.
Oh, right on.
And he worked, and he was a great guy after that. So sometimes you got to be
shocked into it.
Yeah, you got to do that tough love thing, But
that's what I'm talking about. Like with that.
But but Eric, I already had his trust at that point.
Okay, yeah, that's part of it. Like we had Ken Midget on. Ken's a plumbing instructor in Pennsylvania. They call him Coach. He won like plumbing instructor of the year a couple times from the whole United States. I mean, Ken's great. He's been on the show twice. And we were laughing about how, like, when we were coming up, you get a job and then, they hurl insults and tools at you until you just toughened up to the point where you just stayed, right? And the point that we were making, that Ken was making, we were laughing, but if we're really honest about it, none of us liked that. Nobody wanted to go through that. We just did, right? And, his point was one of the reasons there is a skilled trades gap is because that mentality is still so prevalent that the good people don't want to take on a job like that, even though it's high paying, even though you don't have to go to college, even though you can do so well. But the thought of having to endure that level of hazing or harassment or whatever you want to call it, and let's get real, that's like a masculinity thing. That it keeps women away, that it keeps smart, younger people away. So, I guess we'll end with this for both you and Larry. Like, what will it take to get people to stop doing that? And I think Larry and I were like that at the beginning. And we just at least we were getting coaching to learn to work on ourselves. But most guys aren't going to do that. So I guess that's the point of this whole thing too. Like, how's it going to ever change? We all have to die. But
I changed.
But the thing is that there's nobody to take our place. I mean, I was just telling you, Bruce, before we started, the average age of a master electrician is 57. Average age of a master plumber is 53. And we've had several people on talking about this trades gap. Like from our age down lower, there's not a lot of people to fill the gap.
I honestly think that in the trades, you're going to get people like that always, because you're physical in the trades as well. You get a high stress physical environment, and those emotions just come out in those scenarios. Granted, you become more self-aware, you're more caring for others, you're more empathetic, which society is moving towards, which is great. But you're still going to get the guy chucking the wrench because he's going to be exhausted. He's going to be on his knees all day long, or he's going to be in a crawl space. He's doing the dirty jobs with Mike Rowe. He's shot. And you got some guy that starts crying that he can't do it anymore. And you're just going to snap. And those
you talking to us or you talking to you?
Well, a little bit of both.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So I get frustrated at simple things like when I watch the speed at which someone walks, or how
when they saunter on the job.
The saunter. There's so many things. Yeah, and I think we as leaders, we have to help people to understand that. Look, you need to have a sense of urgency about how you do this thing. You need to do the job right. You need to be aware. But we also need to give them a reason to do it. That's the part that's missing. Most high Ds do not do a good job of helping a person understand how aligning their interests with those of the company makes everybody win. It's all about get the job done or get the hell out. And that has to change, because the people who are coming up today, these young people, it's okay, I'll get the hell out. And you end up with these incredible shrinking companies where nobody will work for them. And then they complain about the young people that they failed to lead properly.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting. We started this conversation about masculinity, but we've ended it on generations and age. Like we didn't go there on purpose. It just went there. So is that actually more the issue in general anyway? And it has nothing to do with masculinity.
We're a bunch of old farts.
No, you know what I mean? Because we didn't say like, yeah, I know my head's going to explode. Bruce, that's part 2 of this is we'll get, we have a millennial expert that we've actually had on the show, Nicole. She's awesome. The 3 of us should get Nicole on and talk about generations of the work. That's our next one.
I would love it.
Yeah,
I don't know if we solved any problems here, but
we didn't do shit today, dude. We
we presented things that many people run into. Many people that own businesses run into this on a regular basis. Yep, and
if nothing else, it's food for thought, right, Larry?
They don't even know this is happening around them because you're caught up in your business all the time. Yeah. Before we got coaching, before we started investing ourselves, we didn't realize any of this, and most of the business owners out there in the service industry don't. So any of them that are listening, like, it's not just you. We're all a little bit hardcore like this, and you just got to figure it out. And there's many ways to do that. You went to John Maxwell. We did Howard Partridge. We learned the DISC, and it made things a lot easier. So there are solutions to this. Many people just think these technicians are killing me. It's never going to get better. How many times did we hear that with different people that we knew around town and what we thought over the years?
Bruce had a couple, they owned a Serve Pro and they were in Howard's group years, like early on in our thing. I wouldn't say their names anyway, but I don't remember their names even. And they were kind of that hardcore. You could feel it, just in everything. And at Howard's, they would complain about their business all the time. And they came to see us at our shop. And we had a bunch of happy employees running around giving us high fives and, hugs and what do you want me to do next, boss? And we had kind of worked through a lot of the issues that we're talking about. And I remember they looked at me and they're like, you actually like your employees, don't you? I was like, yes. Yes, I do. And they just looked at me like, I can't even imagine that. And I'm thinking,
they were there for one day.
I'm thinking you are doomed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Larry, did you say they were only there for one day?
One day.
What did you think they were going to rent a house?
Yeah,
you hung out with them. And I don't think anything resonated.
No. Yeah, and it's interesting, Bruce. We're going so far off topic, but this is good. Who cares? So they were like,
"Well, cut all the crap out."
Yeah, fuck this masculinity stuff. Let's get to the nitty gritty. So they were like, "Well, how did you do it?" So I just started explaining how we did it. First Larry and I had to take a good look in the mirror and figure out what we were like to work for, and then start addressing the issues that weren't good. And then we had to start, having daily meetings and investing in our people. And like you said, finding out what it is that their goals were in life and all that. At first, they were looking at me like I was speaking Greek. I could have been speaking Russian or anything. And they're just looking at me. The information, literally, I could almost see it bouncing off their forehead. Bouncing off their face. And I'm just like, and I just remember thinking like, I really don't know what to say.
That's the masculinity. It all comes full circle.
Oh, Larry, good point, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, screw those guys, they're shitheads. I'm just like,
no,
you're the shithead.
I got to tell you, I have enjoyed this conversation a lot because it does. It's like peeling an onion because you think you said, well, just do this. And you go, well, why does that lead to that? Why does that lead to that? What I think is interesting is how generational that you found this to be. Once we started talking about it, it was more of a generational thing. Now, we're in a weird time right now, politically in this country. And a whole lot of it has to do with, how people feel about how people feel about money, how people feel about race, how people feel about gender, how people feel about different types of lifestyles. And, this we're only going to have to be more sensitive moving forward. And I think the most successful business owners are going to be the ones who can figure out how to have these like honest conversations with the people that they are working with and figure out how to align their common interests. If you can't be a leader who can do that moving into, the coming decade, you're obsolete, you're gone.
Yeah, especially, in kind of our types of fields, they used to be monoliths. It was just like white young men, right? That's who you would see out on the plumbing truck and, or the carpet cleaning truck or whatever. We know from our own company, I mean, we had a lot of women. And we're in Southern California. A lot of our workforce was Hispanic. And, we had to learn how they operate, like culturally versus us. And they used to laugh at us hysterically. They'd be like,
totally,
you two are so like, we don't even know where you're coming from. And we're like, well, hey, we're here to learn, I mean, and that's what we used to say. We'd say, look, we're not here to basically do everything in this company. We each have one job. That means we rely on you to do everything out. Every person has their own thing that they're better. I used to always say that, like the only person here, like everybody at this company is better at whatever they do than I am, because that was true. Like I'm not the good marketer. I'm not the good carpet cleaner. I'm not the good flood guy. My job was to make sure everybody knew where we were going and why we were going. That was it. And I'm just like, if I do that well, then I don't need to know how to do any of this other shit.
Well, so you were asking, how do we fix it? And it is, you became aware. I was sitting down with a business owner. He was complaining to me about how his people are leaving. People are complaining, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I asked him one simple question. I said to him, and we'll name him Jeff. I said, well, Jeff, what is it about your company culture and your leadership style that's making people leave?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he started blaming.
That hurt.
He started blaming, but he said nothing. And then he started blaming them again. And that's when I sat back, because it's kind of that feeling you had. It's like that just bounced off of his face. He didn't even hear it.
You couldn't even talk him into understanding.
But you see, the thing is, you can't do anything with that.
No.
Everybody listening, if that's you, take a deep look in the mirror, because your life's going to get harder and harder, and that we've talked about it before. I think the three of us have talked it on the podcast. It's that hero and the victim thing that we talk about all the time. They want to run around and be the hero and fix everything, but then they want to be the victim and complain that everybody's an idiot.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to be the hero or the victim. I don't want to be either one of those things. I had a problem with the hero thing. Larry had more of a problem with the victim thing.
Well,
That's
then,
next time. That's next version.
Till next
Larry,
time.
do you have any of your do you have any of your drink left there?
No, it's all gone. My peanut butter.
Okay, well,
milk stout.
we can click glasses.
Cheers. Clink.
All right, everybody. I don't know. We'll wrap up. I don't know if anybody learned anything.
Hopefully
I
you're
don't know if
entertained.
anything that we said made any sense.
I don't think this podcast is going to see the light of day.
Well, shit, it's going out on Thursday. And no matter what. But here's the thing. What we did learn was, A, if you're an owner, you need to become more self-aware. You need to work on your self-awareness. B, you need to spend some time with your team, setting a vision and a mission that all of you guys are working towards, like Bruce was talking about. And then lastly, it needs to be consistently done. Right? Is that kind of the basics? Is that where we made it to?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Treat people as a means or as an end unto themselves and not a means to an end.
Yeah, I
There
like
you go.
that.
Yeah.
All right, Larry,
Love
take
you,
us
Pete.
out.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the blue collar service. Where are my blue collar podcasts?
All right,
Service
no
Mason.
more beers for you during the podcast. All right.
Hey, we hope everybody enjoyed it. We're out. Have a great day.